Every professional has a unique magic waiting to be discovered. At Finding the Unicorn in You helps you unlock your hidden potential. Thank you for tuning in. Now switching it over to our host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. Today, I have a special guest who is a former Broadway and Celine Dion backup dancer, made his way through real estate world in the early 2000s, only to find his life sidelined by an incurable neurological movement disorder. He says it's best thing that's ever happened to him. So we'll find out a little bit more about his journey, and then I won't give you too much in his intro. I'll let him say it himself. So without further ado, welcome Dale Allen-Rowse.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I'm super excited to just get to know you a little bit more and then share you with our audience. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, like, how did you get into where you're at now and like your journey?
Sure. So where to begin? I started my early life as a performer, and not that I necessarily wanted to be a performer, but it was the first pathway that I saw out of my parents' homes because the other kids that I knew were going to professional ballet schools and they were getting picked up and taken across the country. And I'm like, oh, that's an option? Sign me up for that because that sounds great. So at 16, I auditioned for a professional ballet school. And I went and did that for a bunch of years till I graduated from there. Long story short, I had a fairly healthy career with 7 different ballet companies on Broadway, like you said, backup dancer for Celine Dion. And so I did the deal. But it's funny, it kept coming back to, is this really what I want to be doing? Or am I just doing this to still escape my parents' home? You know what I mean? We get on these paths in life. And while I enjoy all that, it's not my whole life. There's so many people who, to them, that's everything. And I'm like, I did it. I'm glad I'm not doing it now. You know what I mean? It just was never all that, for me. But coming out of that, the last gig I did was with Celine in Vegas. And I knew I was artistically satisfied. So I'm like, okay, now what? I'd like to make some money. Thanks. So real estate. And this was Vegas in the early 2000s. And it was just taking off. It was like that whole Vegas boom just going crazy. And I was lucky enough to time it such that I had the opportunity to be a part of that in a really big way. And my real estate career was soon taking off where I was working strictly for developers. And so I got into the real estate development situation and was helping them on that end. Anyways, flash forward. As we know, 2008 came along and I left Las Vegas with the shirt on my back. I just thought, okay, now what? And I wanted to go and take a couple courses, maybe get a degree in graphic design, which is what I had chosen to do. And so I did that, and it just wasn't quite landing right with me. And it wasn't like the money opportunities that there was in real estate. And by the time I healed from losing my company, essentially in the '08 crash, from there, I decided to move to Los Angeles and maybe there would be more opportunities there. I landed in LA and got a job with Keller Williams as the director of education. And so that was all good. But this is where it starts to get interesting. Because again, I started having a really big real estate career only to find myself sick from the stress of the really big life that I had just been burning the candle at both ends for my entire life since I was a teenager, right? I was just full throttle every single day, either as a performer on stage or as a performer, in a real estate situation. So 2014, I was diagnosed with what's called generalized dystonia or stiff person syndrome. Funny enough, it's the same thing that Celine Dion has. It's so bizarre. She's the only other person I know in the world who has it. But so that really started to change my life. And by 2018, I wasn't really able to work. I wasn't really able to, care for myself. There were days I lost access to the English language, couldn't dress myself, couldn't feed myself, like all the things were gone.
Yeah.
And that is a really interesting situation to find yourself in, having gone from having so much to having so little.
Yeah.
It is amazing how quickly your life gets so small and so alone, right? In those types of situations. And anyhow, I did the regular doctors and went through the whole thing, and nobody's really seemed to have any answers. It ranged everything from it's just all in your head to it'll just go away. And so I wasn't getting the support from the Western medicine world that I was searching for. And so I ultimately came down to me looking at myself in the mirror and saying, okay, but what are you going to do about it?
Mhm.
What are you going to do in this moment to fix all this? And I'm like, oh gosh, I started. So we moved to the middle of the nowhere, like where we live now. I don't even have trash service. I had to take my trash. Like we sold everything and downsized and exchanged the news cycle for ducks and birds and dogs and cats and vegetables and all that. And I just thought, okay, if dystonia means out of alignment, then that's my first clue. And I started writing these books, not because I wanted another hobby, but because I found that what the process of writing the books was really healing me. And I was meditating for 3 hours a day, and I was just entering a complete state of stillness in order to address me in and of myself, to see what was there, to see what was out of alignment. Right. And I have always preached ever since, because this is what I firmly believe, that the problem is the portal. And for me, the problem of dystonia, of having this neurological movement disorder where I couldn't feed myself or speak, was the mountain I had to climb. And it felt like an internal one. So while since then, my life has gone in two separate directions, because I still have a real estate career, which pays the bills and does all those nice things. But my life and my life's work has very much gone in a different direction. And it's at the intersection of energy work, which is ultimately what I found to heal myself. Look, I am fine. I can go about my life. I can go about the world. There is no, I still have tics a little bit, and I still have some movement issues on occasion, especially when I'm really stressed or tired. But other than that, I have I have eradicated that energy signature of dystonia from my being, right? And that was all done through studying, quite frankly, shamanism to start with. And then shamanism, learning how to be a shaman, led me to energy work, which has always gone hand in hand with what I learned in business coaching school. And that was the most surprising thing, is how it came full circle, right back to my real estate career. And me teaching and coaching real estate agents was always like, whenever you go to those conferences and all this, and they're all like, yeah, right, sales, right? What they're also doing in that space is doing anything that they can in order to manifest what they seek.
Mhm.
And they push themselves in a way that I hadn't seen in other spaces. And I'm like, oh, these guys are studying manifesting like a science, right? Because they're so dedicated to their sales position and they want to do so well. They're willing to do anything, even get spiritual. I'm like, oh, do this thing. So it was from there that I started writing the books. And then I discovered that, ooh, the whole writing of the books was a whole new pathway forward for me that I wasn't expecting at all. When I first sat down to write the book, like the title of the book and the character came to me like that and that. I was like, okay, I'll just jot that down. Thanks so much. And then I was like, okay. And then he does, and then it was like, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, by the time I wrote the second chapter, I actually stood up and looked around like I was in some kind of colossal universal joke. It was so crazy how the stream of information was just like starting to thunder through me. And so I was just taking notes as fast as I could, trying to capture what I was seeing in my mind. Anyhow, flash forward all these years, it's actually a process called automatic writing. And it's a spiritual practice that a lot of people use in order to understand and identify within themselves the voice of inkling. And that's all you chase, and you blank yourself completely. In shamanism, we call it a state of being the hollow bone, right? To hollow oneself from oneself, to empty yourself from your container, right? And by doing that, by removing yourself from yourself, it creates a vacuum to allow in for the new information, new experience, new vibrations of any sort, right? And so I really have been leaning into this whole manifesting and channeling, like all of this information, and maybe it's just coming from my subconscious. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, right? Other people will say it's coming from other places. Other people will say it's other voices. Ultimately, I've gotten to is that it's me. It is me. And anything that we do in and of ourselves stands in power. And that's ultimately how I learned how to heal myself. Of all things, I no longer experience stress. I no longer experience fear. I no longer experience a mood that I do not choose, because I am now master and commander of my mind, to the point where nothing happens to me without me having not a reaction, but a response that is chosen, right? I am no longer a default set of wiring so that if you do this, then they do that. Like that kind of Pavlovian experience needs to end, because that all ends up being reactionary. And that's the world we live in, where humans are reactionary and they do not understand that we will not have peace until we are peaceful, right? And
Yeah.
that's ultimately, I feel like my life's work is to move us in a different direction, because we can continue the fight or we can evolve the fight. And evolving the fight means not fighting, right? Evolving the fight means moving through your world with more compassion for those that you don't understand, right? And being the source of friendship and love in all situations, because that will diffuse anything that's going on. Inherently, humans are not bad, right? Inherently, like sometimes we have bad information, but we in and of ourselves are each on our own individual soul journey. And we each think that we get a say in somebody else's soul journey, like even our spouses and things like that. No, you don't. It's none of your business, right? And that's why we get into trouble, because we're all up into somebody else's business. And whether it's even justice causes or high-minded ideals of trying to fix and fight the world, the energy of fixing and fighting is why we have the world today. And again, that's just what's brought me like to this moment, since you asked yeah, because I have my job, sure, but really what I'm all about now, ever since I got sick and had the opportunity to deconstruct that and heal myself, eradicate within myself the energy signature of dystonia and understand what it is, and then remove it from myself. That is what disease is. And I can teach anybody to do that, right? None of what by the way, I teach all of this on my YouTube channel, whether it's manifesting $1 million, whether it's just learning how to be happy, whether it's learning how to take control of your mind, right? It was just those years and years of me adopting stillness, right? All that we seek, everything that we seek, whether it's money, your position in life, happiness, internal fulfillment, any of that can be accessed through stillness. But unless you're getting still, like for a bunch of minutes in a row throughout the course of your day, you can't hear, you can't have the give and take with the universe of everything that's trying to happen with you and for you, and understand why the supposedly bad things are happening to you, because they're not bad. If you understand manifesting and you're really clear on where you're going and bad things start to happen, you know that bad thing is just what was standing in your way. Right?
Sure.
There's no bad things. You just are like getting rid of more painful things, right? Versus less painful things, but you're still on the right track. And it's understanding that the mind leads you through all of this. The mind will determine, and it's all a choice, whether you're going to be happy, whether you're going to be lonely, whether you're going to be rich, whether you're going to be poor, whether you're going to be beautiful, whether you're going to be attractive. Right? All of these things are choices. All of these things are an energy signature that you can either choose to align with or not. Like
Yeah.
abundance is something you align with. It's not something you acquire. Abundance is a state of being. Abundance is a state of mind. Abundance is a choice that in each and every situation that you see nothing but the goodness, you see nothing of why this is happening, right? Even all the awful that's happening here today's turn on the news, all the awful. Can you say yay? Right? Can you say, yes, this is needed. This is exactly what we need to be doing here and now, right? Because we got to birth this baby, honey. And
Yeah.
birth a baby comes with some pain, right? And sometimes a little bloodshed, right? That's the way of life, right? And it's not always pretty, but we can all rest assured that we as humans only evolve in one direction, right? Go back and watch an episode of Golden Girls. Right? You can't turn that on without seeing, oh, we don't talk that way anymore. Gosh, like slut shaming. Oh, they're doing a bunch of things that we just don't do anymore. And that's in a
Mhm.
very short span of time. So it's never to lose hope. It's to always like keep your eye on the prize. Just keep on going. And so, anyways, I will stop talking now.
I was like, just take it over. Just take it over. You're doing well. Now, I'm curious about something though. So you've went through this amazing journey, and you've learned a lot, and it sounds like it was a lot of pain, but also a lot of growth that went through it. What kept you going when you were at your lowest? Because I feel like some people take the choice of, I'm gonna keep persevering, or I'm gonna take that victim mentality and sink into that. Helped you say,
Okay.
go for it.
Yeah. First of all, there's two positions there, right? And the first is I cannot help myself. I need help and I cannot help myself, right? That's one position. The other is I need help and I can help myself. Okay. So I'm going to address those differently. So the people who can help themselves, who can reach out for help, who can raise their hand and say, hey, I need help, do that. Understanding that you take yourself on the journey. You take yourself on the journey to happiness, to wealth, to understanding, to like anything that you want in your life. You yourself have to take yourself and your mind in that direction, right? If you watch my YouTube channel, it really does break down manifesting step by step and how I have been able to manifest incredible things in my life by understanding it as a science. Start there. If you can help yourself, go find other people that you find inspiring, right? One of my sayings I use all the time is you're not tired, you're uninspired, right?
Mhm.
Go to the library, walk around until you find a section that lights you up. Once you find that topic in the library, expand on that, right? Because I promise you, if you spend some time just flipping through some books, inspiration will come. Inspiration comes once we start an activity. Often people, especially artists, wait for the inspiration to come and then they start their work. No, completely wrong, right? You got to get the wheels turning just a little bit, right? And there's other things that you can do that aren't like, say, like for my writing. Now, this doesn't happen, but let's say if I wasn't inspired, like I could go and do certain things that I have found for myself always put me into a state of inspiration. And I study those things and I write them down. And same thing for joy. I'm like, what can I do that always throws me into a state of joy where I literally don't have a choice because it's just the best thing ever. And so I will find those things and I'll make a note of them. Oh, wow. Like I can't do that without throwing myself into a state of joy. That goes on the list. Love it. And you just keep like finding things that put you in that state. Your vibe, your container, everything that is going on with you energetically is a choice. I often see people in shamanic healing sessions where we really go through this. And one of the things that we do is we practice choosing our emotions, right? Okay, adopt happiness. Okay, now adopt sadness. Okay, now adopt. And when we were like, oh yeah, I can choose to move it in this one of these directions. And so in the session, I'll often have them adopt the best feeling they've ever had in the whole world. And so they just pull that on and they're like, okay, I got it. I'm just fill yourself with it more and more. Feel that. And now in your mind, look at it. What color is it? And I have them choose a color that embodies that energy for them, the best feeling in the world, right? For me, it's dark blue. And so that's my color that I imagine with now. And when I'm driving in the car and I got the disco tunes going and I'm like having the best time of my life just partying in my truck by myself, right? Like I'm envisioning I have this long navy blue cape that trails behind me and I'm always standing in power, always filling myself with more, right? Your everything is a choice. If you do not understand how to get there, follow people who do. The gates are open to higher consciousness, to anybody who wants to know how to completely abandon and escape all fear and pain, right? It's just through higher consciousness where you're like, oh, I don't really, you know, I don't involve myself in the ick anymore, right? All the dense, gross vibration, toxic stuff, right, lives down here. I live up here. I live above it. I don't see it. I don't experience. I'm not a part of it. And again, that's a choice. So, anyways, that's for the people who can help themselves. Now, for the people who are depressed and are locked into a mental space of not being able to help themselves, because I've been there, where all hope is gone, where, it's been a week and you haven't been able to feed yourself and you don't know where this goes from here, right? If you're in that space, first of all, acknowledge where you are. Just start there. Acknowledge where you are, because acknowledging where you are centers you in the problem. Don't try and not see it. Don't try and not experience it, right? Be where you are, understanding that if you put your mind to it, you can. And it's got to start with just finding a willingness to be willing.
Mm.
And in your own mind, can you be willing to just maybe one day text somebody, right? Because that's a start. That's a really big start. And reach out, connect with others. However, in all of this, this is our own independent healing journey, not to be necessarily shared with to bleed on others. Why I couldn't hang out in the dystonia support groups is because all of those people identified as sick people. And I was there to learn how to live my best life with dystonia, and they were all there to complain and be sick. Like, excuse me, just get out of my way. I'm coming through. I have a life to live. Okay, maybe I have a couple special care instructions now. That's fine. But that does not, prevent me from doing absolutely everything I've ever wanted to do. So I hope that answered your question.
It did. And like you said, it all really is a choice. And you have to be able to choose what's positive, choose what's bringing value, choose what's bringing abundance in your life. If we fixate on the negative, if we fixate on what we don't have or what we wish we had or what comparison to others, it's not getting us anywhere. It just
Right.
puts us deeper into the hole. So we have to be able to be grateful for what we have and pick the
Right.
happy things. Think
Right.
that brings us joy.
Yeah. One saying I use a lot in my practice is that opportunity can only be seen by those who believe it is there. If you understand that statement, you understand energy work. You understand how to change your entire universe, right?
Mhm.
Opportunity can only be seen by those who believe it is there. So it is in the belief that the thing is there that allows your mind to see it. It's not whether it's there or not. It's whether your mind that is in taking in a trillion bits of information is going to bring that to the front of your mind or not. And that's all it is. It's programming the mind to look for that which we seek. But everybody's looking for that which they don't like and that which they want to complain about, right? And so the mind keeps bringing in more of that. And that's one of the main things in the manifesting and energy work is cutting out all negativity. You cannot say negative or toxic words. And it's amazing though. Once you stop that, like your skin clears up and you suddenly lose weight. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. There's like real world applications to like energy work and not using dense, gross words. Wow.
Yeah, and I know for some it's easier said than done. And I think once you get into the rhythm of practicing it, it's a muscle. You have to be able to get to practice and be okay that sometimes you're going to mess up and,
Yeah. Oh,
you
for
know,
sure.
dust yourself off and start
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Don't just give up.
Yeah. All of us, like, we are one thing and one thing only, habit of mind. And in order to change anything in your world, you just have to change that habit of mind, even with complaint. You have to end your association with that choice. And that's just, again, it's a habit. And every time you do it, you stop yourself from doing it. Or every time you're like harming yourself by using your imagination to show you harmful things that you're not enjoying. Like that, do you have a choice? Can you say, oh, coffee? That's right. Oh, wow. I wonder what coffee I'll have tomorrow. Like, by able to, like, to change your mind is to change your mind. And then that scary thing starts again. And you're like, oh, I'm feeling, and you're like, no, coffee. That's right. And it's going back and forth for a long time until you eradicate from yourself those harmful and terrorizing things that your ego will show you by co-opting your imagination.
Yeah. And I think one thing you said earlier is really important for this to be successful. You have to choose what spaces you're going to go in. You have to choose what people you're going to surround yourself with. Because,
Right.
like you said, if you would have continued in those groups that were feeling like focusing on the negative, focusing on the victim, focusing
Right.
on boohoo me,
Yeah.
you would have never been able to continue growing as much as you have.
Right.
Because there's this analogy that I love using where you put crabs in a bucket. And if one of the crabs start trying to get out, the other crabs will pull them back in, and they just don't let you get out of that bucket. So you have
Mm.
to be able to change the atmosphere, be with people that rise you and
Mhm.
not suppress you.
Yes. Yeah. Success is contagious. Fear is contagious. Happiness and joy is contagious. Like, where do you want to hang out? Because the entire spectrum of mankind is available to us and always will be. So
Mhm.
where do you want to look? Do you want to look over the happy stuff, or you want to look over the scary stuff, or you want to look over the, like, it's a choice of where you're looking, where you're hanging out, what you're experiencing of mankind
Mhm.
is very much a choice. Exactly what you said.
Yeah. And with that, you do a lot of things. You're writing books, you're doing your coaching, you're doing your shaman classes, you're doing real estate. You're a multifaceted individual with many talents. With that, one of the things that we all have to be wary with is do we ground ourselves so that we don't burn ourselves out? So, what are some things that you do to make sure that you're doing enough to keep your soul content, but not enough where you're like burning the candle on both ends?
Yeah. Great question. So, grounding ourselves, especially in a very chaotic world, is very important. Like in shamanism, we look at everything as energy. And so sometimes you go through the world, or you'll watch a news program, or somebody will say something to you and they'll throw this like bit of negative energy on you, right? And you're like, oh gosh, like, okay, that's starting to stick. And so if you're not like regularly cleansing yourself and clearing your energy field and eradicating all that stuff that just sticks to you, right, by way of our toxic environment vibrationally from human to human, right? First and foremost, start there, right? Self honor is everything. Self honor is where you discover self. Self honor is a practice that the indigenous people taught me that changed everything for me, because I no longer am looking outside of myself for anything. I no longer need anyone for love or for healing or for direction or for guidance or like nothing. In and of myself, I have all answers. In and of myself, if I am still and quiet enough, I know. And you know that. And so it's just stepping into that space for yourself. Again, it's you taking you on the journey. It's you sitting yourself down and being quiet and seeing what's there and understanding that it's your job to end your own toxicity. And once we do that, and once we have more humans who no longer use the gross, dense vibration words, that we can understand, we can all get to where we're going by using uplifting and encouraging and loving vibrations. We don't have to deal in all this other. That is a choice. And toxic behavior has to be the new smoking. We can no longer tolerate toxicity in our spaces, not publicly, not anywhere. Like, vibrational toxicity has to be rooted out of all conversations. But I do not tolerate. I'm like, if you're gonna have like a conversation with me, it's not in this tone. I don't live in these spaces. If you want to devolve into being angry and yelling and swearing and things like that, okay, but maybe text me. Please. I'm not
Yeah.
available to stand in your presence while you are energetically being chaotic. I don't tolerate that in my spaces. So grounding self, getting into the practice of self-honor is up to you. Again, to take yourself on the journey, to understand that everything you seek is on the other side of stillness, and that everything that you're after, that you can grant it to yourself. Stop looking outside of yourself. You don't need appreciation. You don't need love. You don't need to be seen. You don't need anything from anyone. You can grant that to yourself. That which you do not have is that which you have not granted to self. And that's money. And that's your place in the world. And that's everything. That which you do not have is that which you have not granted to self. So grant it to yourself every day. Every day I'm in practice. Every day I am blessing myself. I am healing myself. I am fulfilling myself with joy and love and contentment. I'm not out in the world looking for it. Those people are crazy. You've been out there. I do not recommend it.
Mhm.
So ground yourself in and of yourself. Grant everything to you, all the gifts, all the wealth, all the joy, all the happiness, everything that you want. Grant it to yourself and just keep bringing it in and keep seeing yourself, because like it has to start there. Because if you're not seeing it, they won't either.
Yeah, I love that. And we are running out of time, so I want to wrap up with the last
Okay.
question.
Sure.
So, which is the premise of the whole podcast, and we love talking about unicorns here. So, what is the one unicorn lesson that you've learned that impacted your life that shaped you to be the person that you are today?
It was in the understanding that what makes me weird, what makes me different, what makes me unique is all where the spirit gifts lie. Chase your weird, lean into that which makes you different, because that is where you will find, again, your spirit gifts, whatever that is. And if you don't know what that is, go to shaman school. Seriously, there's a bunch of shamans all over, and they will help you discover that. Because in like traditional religious practices, they aren't teaching you to be more powerful. They're teaching you to be more subservient. And we don't need that
Yeah.
anymore. We need powerful people who can stand in love and say, I don't think so. Not on my watch. Sister, this is not the way that this is going. And say it with love, because we do not have enough examples of a really strong no said from a place of care, right?
Mhm.
So you have that level of stability within yourself. You're just out in the world offering the world more chaos and your own toxicity, right? It all starts there. Take yourself on the journey of healing, right? It's up to you.
I love that. Seek your weird. It's a really good lesson. So this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much, Dale. And if somebody wants to either reach out to you, follow your journey, or hire you to help them with their process, how can they do?
Sure. So since my name's a little unique, it's easy to find. It's Dale Allen-Rowse, DaleAllen-Rowse. All social media is at Dale Allen-Rowse. My YouTube channel, which is called Spiritual Disco, for fun, because it's me channeling actually like knowledge and information into my phone set to a disco beat. So if you want to check out any of my books, they're all available. I have an author page on Amazon, and you can find all the work there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for listeners, don't think you have to write all this down right away. If you scroll down, you'll see all the links and everything he said in the show notes. As well, if you go to my website at rainbowcareercoaching.com, go to the Unicorn Wall of Fame, you'll see Dell on there with his picture, his bio, and all the links in there as well. So quick reminder, episodes come out every Friday at 7 a.m. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this so it goes on to as many people as possible. There's a lot of good golden nuggets that Dale shared here today. So I hope you apply the unicorn lesson this week into your life. Is there any last words that you would like to say to the audience?
Yes, love one another. Don't worry about all the crazy. Don't worry. It's happening for a reason. Bless it. Enjoy it. Celebrate it. Know that we have to birth this baby. Don't be crazy. Don't add to the crazy. Don't add to the to chaos. Don't add to justice. Be still. be peaceful, be loving.
I love that. Thank you so much. Until next time, everyone.